Okay. All right. Thursday, June 15th, Halliwell Review Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Nigerian.
Here.
Mr. Savini.
Here.
Mr. Mayo.
Here.
And the chair is here. Second item on the agenda is public comment. You guys will have your time to speak because we have your dedicated space. But if there's anything else you want to say, during the public comment, we'd be more than happy to hear. But if there's nothing there, then we'll move on to the review and approval of draft meeting minutes from June 1st, 2023. I know I just sent those to you guys about 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
We can pass over that and table it for the next meeting if you'd prefer.
No, I got a question though.
Okay.
Did you get in touch with the Scoutis Hall group, what they're called?
Yes.
Multi-generational.
Yes. They're not going to be here tonight.
I didn't see them.
Nope. Nope.
Okay. Because we're on a discussion about this is on their agenda for next Tuesday, apparently, their meeting.
Okay.
Gene told me about it. I said, okay.
All right. They met last night to discuss
okay.
meeting dates because I know we had all discussed having a joint meeting with them. Their preference is to send the chairperson and the vice chair to one of our meetings. So we just need to figure out when that's going to be.
Okay, great, thank you. That's the only question I had in the minutes.
Okay. So I'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the received late minutes of June 1st.
All right. Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Approved as is. Next on the agenda, the discussion, consideration, and action identifying potential needs for youth sports leagues and other town recreation. So as we spoke at our last meeting, we invited the town rec leagues to our meeting this evening. We have representatives from North Smithfield Xpress and the North Smithfield Little League. I did get some correspondence from Northmen Hoops, which we can go over. I did get confirmation from the Soccer Association, but it doesn't seem like anyone is here for that yet. I can text somebody else while we wait. So I invited the groups here this evening just because our focus for almost phase one of our master planning is more of our outdoor recreation, and just wanting to, for me personally, it's providing some insight for both this committee, but also for me as a planning board member as we go into our comp plan. So it's really to kind of get all the cards out on the table of needs, wants, how you've been using the existing spaces, what you could be utilizing at a Halliwell property as far as practice fields or smaller fields for the younger groups that are around town, but really just kind of getting it out there, what you guys need, if there's things that you need, if there's improvements that you guys need to see, maintenance, what the what's the word I'm looking for? Enrollment is, how many kids you have coming through your respective leagues and everything, and just ways that we can help you in any way with utilizing the Halliwell property. So we have Joel Bargman here. He's our architect for the master plan. So he's also here to just listen. And Joel, if there's things that they say that pique your interest and you have further questions, please feel free to jump in and ask them. So with that, I'm just going to turn the mic over to any of the four of you, and you can start off, say what league you represent, and just go for it. Yes. Yep.
You should know how to push the button to make it sound go on.
All right, good. There's a button over here. Is it all set? Okay.
When it's up, it's on.
We're good? All right. Pam Storm, North Smithfield Little League. I think, first of all, thank you for the committee for inviting us all here. I think we all have a shared interest in all of the athletics in town. At this current time, we are pushing in Northfield Little League 200 Little League members. We have the most enrollment in our T-ball and our coach pitch, where we're actually out of field space at Pacheco Park, and we had to dedicate all our coach pitch teams, which we have 6 coach pitch teams, all to the Kelly Field complex. Currently within the Kelly Field complex, I am not hearing good comments of the upkeep and maintenance of that facility, which as a league president is very disheartening, and I hopefully that will not turn away our current Little League enrollment for next year. So that's something that I'll be working or trying to work with Ray on to try to get that upkeep of that facility, you know, just making it better for our little ones. Wants versus needs. With Little League, we definitely need another baseball field, minimum one. We are missing the Kendall Dean field tremendously. I know years past, Scott, you could probably speak to this a little bit more. It's the BP before Pam, where I know we utilize this at least as a practice field here, and we don't have that anymore. So we definitely need another field for practice and games. I think combining those two and just having another dedicated Little League field would help. I know our juniors and senior leagues, we have to utilize the high school field, which times with scheduling can be very complicated. So we definitely might actually be looking at needing 2 fields, a legit junior seniors field as well as another Little League field to house our current enrollment. We do have an increase of 8% from last year, and we're working on trying to get more kids from, we call it the COVID bubble, the age 10, trying to get more of them involved. So hopefully we can increase another 5 to 8% with our enrollment for next year. Yes.
Since that's kind of why we're here, so that the architect can hear this. So it's clear that you see growth, you are experiencing growth, and that additional field and/or fields. Mm-hmm. Do you need a structure of any sort, or what if we were able to fit at 1 or 2? Mm-hmm. What would you envision them being? Secondary use, primary use, or
for fields, or are you talking like hard structures like concession stand bathrooms,
anything
or are you talking
like
about field?
I mean, the bathroom is going to be part of any structure that we would go with, but on the short term, if it was just outdoor stuff that we initially could put forward, you would just need 1 or 2 fields and maybe a storage shack or a storage shed.
Definitely storage. We're running into that. We have the storage boxes right now. We're looking, trying to negate and working with the police department in regards to vandalism. So that is huge. So any type of locked structure that is, lock and key or combo that only certain people have keys to, whether it be dedicated to Xpress or, if everyone has their own lock or locked box rather. So that would absolutely help. I think lockbox might do it because we just need to house the bases so the bases don't go missing.
The last question is if it was a function of budget, do we need to only envision full backstops and fencing, or could you use just an open field approach?
I would love to see a full baseball field facility. Something that's in our 3 to 5 year plan is housing tournaments in this town. I think we have a need for tournaments. There's really not that many up here. We have the Jimmy Fund tournament that's housed in the northern part of the state, but all other tournaments are in the southern part of the state. And we need to have more tournaments up here that will drive enrollment within our town, and that will also drive enrollment in the neighborhood communities as well.
Baseball, softball, or both?
Both.
Both.
Okay. Yep, so within baseball, definitely the 2 fields, and Kristen, I'm sure you'll jump up maybe for softball. Yep, so she'll jump up for softball. There's definitely a need for probably minimum, Kristen, 2 softball fields, so I'm sure you can.
We only have 1.
Yep, currently that has to be shared. But when we talk about the field and what kind of structures we need, definitely they need the backstops, we need the fencing in the outfield. Juniors or seniors needs to push far out so we can house it the size of the high school. We will definitely need dugouts. That is something that is a must, with the roofs on top, with the full backs, just bringing it up to par with the dugouts. If we could do some type of shared concession stand or something along those lines. So if anyone does house games or tournaments, then we have that option as well, and we're not setting up a tent and a table at a brand-new facility trying to house a concession stand. So something along those lines when it's like, Saturday basketball or Sunday football or, Friday night baseball, that we have that facility that we can utilize. That would definitely help with the fundraising, paying our umps and our referees, because that's what our concession stand does. It pays all the umps and referees and pays for the extra bases when we need it or the extra all-star uniforms. So that's definitely helps drive fundraising income.
Are lights an added benefit or a necessity?
I would probably push towards necessity. You're going to get more use out of your fields, a lot more use out of your fields. You're going to have those 7:30 games, and then they can continue to 9:30, and sometimes push 10 o'clock, depending on what it is.
I mean, if you had to sell it, could you argue that you could get revenue from tournaments and night games?
Oh my God, absolutely.
To offset some of that cost? I mean, I'm very pro. My daughter was
Yep.
played for years, so.
Yeah.
But I think we need to categorize it so the designer understands.
Yeah, I mean,
it.
when you're looking at it, you're looking at tournament fees of entering for a team anywhere from $300 to $700 per team. And if you have 10 to 12 teams per age division, and then you're housing it all over town, and you could invite for each age division possibly 10 to 12 for pool play for baseball or softball.
And the
so you're
lights
looking at
give you the ability to go.
Later into the evening
evenings.
and house at least minimal one extra game per day. Okay. Yep. Plus all those other people that are going to buy at the concession stand and make a couple extra $100 within that game as well.
What do you see typically, and you may not know the answer to this, what do you see typically for maintenance costs of the fields that we're in Pacheco, that we're looking at Pacheco? Like how much, per year are we looking at that would bring it to the back? I know sometimes that we want to make it sure that it's like playable, marketable for these tournaments. So ideally, or currently, how much do we pay? And then ideally, how much more would we need to pay to keep it for
Right.
tournament-ready sort of function?
So that's something I actually want to work with Ray a little bit more, see what the line item is for Pacheco Park, because I know we had a lot of asks that did fall under the need category that unfortunately did not get fulfilled this year,
Okay.
Especially when they were asked for in April and they weren't delivered by June, and then unfortunately told he was out of money in that budget line item.
So are you referring to fiscal year 2022-23 or the upcoming 23-24?
22-23.
Okay.
Yep. Fencing sometimes is your maintenance costs. Little League, we just redid the whole concession stand and bathroom with volunteers donating pretty much 90% of the items. We paid for a lot of the paint, so we're able to redo that facility with floors, stainless steel tables, brand new stalls, brand new soap dispensers, epoxy floors. So Little League footed the bill for all of that with the help of all our donations and manpower from the community.
Okay.
So I'm not sure like what the dollar amount would be.
Sure.
But I know they pay for the paint, the fertilizer, the lime for the lines, and all the manpower to cut the grass and whatever upgrades. I think they had to fix the sprinklers. So sprinklers might be a need when you're looking at putting in the possibly the Halliwell complex for all fields, because it's a very wide open space, especially if you're not replanting trees in there and you're going to have a lot of sun and it's going to burn, and then we're not going to have a facility. So.
Okay.
I got a couple of questions.
Yeah.
At Pacheco, are there basically 4 baseball fields at Pacheco?
There's 3 baseball fields and a softball field.
Okay. And at the Kelly Field Complex, are there 2 or 3 fields there?
I believe there's one with an open area. There's one with an open area. There used to be 2.
It
to be 2.
started out with 2, that's what I'm
Yep.
asking.
Yep.
What happened to the other field?
I think they took down the backstop and they just, and it kind
Made
of,
it open to open field.
it was kind
Well-
of ignored, and I think Xpress used to use it for practice. Oh, they
Yep,
still,
yep.
okay, so Express football uses it for practice, but there's no lights. They used to have 2 backstops, no fence between the 2, so the 2 fields were facing each other.
Right.
I think one of the backstops or both have been taken down. I think
So
one
there's one.
One-
now,
one
the
is- one
field-
backstop is still
Is
up.
the field there a Little League field or a Senior League field?
There's no fence, so it's technically.
Yeah, it's
Is
set
it
up for
skin
it's
or
set up
is
for
it Skin
softball.
or is it grass?
Yeah, no grass.
Skin.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, another cost
So
would be
that whole
the,
complex in
infield dirt.
Kelly only has one baseball field? Okay.
So we actually lost 2 fields in this town when they took down the Kendall Dean Field, which was a beautiful T-ball field in the back
Right.
here. I don't know why that got dismantled. So we actually lost 2 fields in town.
I think the Kelly Field used to, I think the older boys, the junior boys.
Used to play there.
When my sons were playing in school, the junior high played their games at the Kelly Field. I remember that. 'Cause I remember going down there and watching my boys play. But that's like, 30 years ago, so,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the older
Thank you.
boys had to play there or at the high school now.
Right.
A field is not big enough for, it's not even, you can correct me, Scott, you probably know, we can't even host a state tournament for the 12U because it's not big enough. Like for
Right.
the 12U, Little League, at the state tournament, they couldn't host it because the fence isn't far enough,
Right.
it's not a big enough field.
Can you use the high school skin field for your girls' senior softball right now? You can use that.
For the high school, yeah, because that's what the varsity team and
All right, so,
middle
but
school use.
the Little League can use it for the girls' senior league, am I correct or not?
We-
Well,
We
have
could if it was
the middle
available.
school and the high school softball teams use it, and there's no lights on it.
I understand, but can Little League use it?
The rec softball, you mean?
Yes.
We have to put in a permit, you have to ask it, it kind of really only works after the season, because I can tell you just from experience, the middle school games go very long. I mean, very long, like till dark, some games have been
Okay.
suspended.
And they have to
because
get
of
called.
darkness, and
I'm just trying to get a figure out how many fields you guys have to work with.
Softball really has
Oh.
one, that Pacheco, that's the only
Yeah.
one really for rec that they can use year-round, and
One night a
don't have
week
it on Tuesdays.
because the women's
So
softball
the
league.
fields you need the most for are the girls' fields as opposed to the softball fields as opposed to baseball fields, is that correct or
I
not?
would say at the same level, you need 2 softball and you do need the 2 baseball because we are outgrowing our
So you
facility.
want 2 softball fields and 2 baseball fields for Little League or Senior League in the baseball?
And they could also be.
Well,
be
no,
used for
which one,
overflow.
Little League or Senior League? That's what I'm asking.
Little League is the whole, it encompasses the whole thing.
I
So it would be
understand,
for,
but the size of the field for Little League
We would
play
ask for
and
senior-
Senior League play
seniors.
are different.
yep, make them as big as possible that meet
Okay,
regulations
thank
for the
you.
older kids.
Yeah, see, softball would be the same size, no matter what.
But the pitching mounds are different.
Correct. Yep,
Fences are different.
yep. So for the seniors, to answer your question. One of the other costs I was thinking about is bringing in proper infield mix and not infield mix that would be able to, we'd be able to get from Holliston because that's not, doesn't have the clay mix in it. So you'd be looking at proper infield mix. This year, we were able to work with Ray and he purchased Dura Edge infield mix. So we had the Dura Edge rep come down and we were able to mix some of that with Holliston to get the Majors field up and running. But going forward, we would like our infield mix to come directly from Dura Edge because it helps with drainage and the puddling. After that massive hailstorm we had, we only had to put down half a bag of the fill and our field was fine. If we did not have the Dura Edge, the whole field would have been unusable at least for 2 days.
Are there any questions that this group hasn't asked of you?
Am I sweating over here? Thanks, Justin, I appreciate that. No, I think having another athletic complex in town is absolutely amazing. My worry is the town upkeeping that facility because I have some concerns with Pacheco, I have concerns with Kelly, and I don't want anything to happen to a brand new complex and that fall behind. So that is my worry about manpower and finances and what that maintenance line item is gonna look like, because I'm already struggling at Pacheco because I have holes in fences that create issues with people and spectators watching games. And we house 2 to 3 all-star games from the whole district coming over, and I have district reps coming over, state reps coming over from Little League, from the state. So I need to make sure our field at Pacheco is safe, and right now I don't feel like it's 100% safe. So having a new complex it does worry me. I want to make sure the town is set up financially and with manpower to be able to take care of everything that we're talking about this evening.
Perfect.
What is Ray's problem with keeping Kelly up? That's the question I have.
So right now, when they go over there at the start of the season, there were hypodermic needles all over the fields, in the parking lot. Yep.
That's the same story for him.
Yep, that as well, yep. This past week, I did get a email from one of the coaches that for some reason, there was fertilizer all over the infield, and the coach actually ended early because parents were concerned that their kids were in the infield with all the fertilizer there. So that type of silly stuff is unfortunately, well, not really silly, but it's what I'm hearing. And then with people on the other side of the fences and, you know, yep,
Okay.
all right.
Well, if there's no other questions, thank you for coming out tonight. So the floor is yours, guys.
If you want, I can throw out softball, I mean, it's, a lot of it is probably very similar.
If you'd like to. Where,
Yeah, I just, I've got one field, I need more. That was pretty easy. There you go, that's my speech. No, that's really what it is, I agree.
could you just introduce
Kristen
yourself?
Ledger,
Thank
sorry,
you.
from the North Smithfield Girls Softball League. So, yeah, that's the biggest concern for me is we've got one field that we can use year-round. And unfortunately, we don't even have it all week because the Women's League uses it on Tuesdays. So with all the teams I have, in my 8s, 10s, 12s, and 14s, I've got one field for games and practices. I have teams that can't practice because they can't get on the field, and I can't have my 8Us coming in at 7:30 for a practice because there's a game beforehand. So additional fields would be extremely beneficial. My 6Us right now use the T-ball field, so part of the Little League field, but if there were more fields, they could have a softball field to play on and practice on. So really, it's any type of town support for the softball program would be great. We didn't have softball for a few years. Post-COVID, it was tough. There was one team, then we didn't. Kids went to other towns. We've now been doing this is our second year to rebuild the program. We've got ages, we've got 2 all-girls T-ball teams, you know, so we've got the age teams in every age group. So the girls are there, they're coming out, they're enjoying, they're doing 4 seasons. We have them doing fall. They want summer clinics. We do winter clinics. They play the spring. So these kids are interested and want to play. I mean, watching just by the growth of the program, and then the middle school had like 30 girls try out for it. That's a huge number in our tiny little town. So the same concerns, the same needs, a fence, you know, the same needs that Little League would need, softball would need. The difference is we don't have different size, so the field is the field. 190 up to 200 you could do, whether it's 8Us or it's my junior, seniors, same size field. The only difference is our 8Us, we put out a line. At 125 is like theirs, but we don't need a different size field. So our older kids, same field, so you don't have to worry about that with softball. But that's really, I'm here to kind of represent and say, yes, softball fields, give me softball fields. Obviously, lights are beneficial because, again, softball tournaments do run. Most softball tournaments, $500 is an inexpensive softball tournament. Some of these tournaments, if you get the 18-year-olds, you're talking $1,000, $1,200 per team. Obviously, you pay the umpires, but that is a revenue to the league and to the town. Softball tournaments are more expensive than, like, I think Little League All-Stars is probably less expensive, but that's a little more local thing. It would bring revenue, it would support the program, and it could give back for if there were improvements or things that were needed to be done versus the town having to incur the entire cost. A lot of towns do that. Smithfield does it, Cranston does it, because they have more complexes with more fields. That and their rec programs support their league. It helps cover costs of uniforms. It helps cover costs of field maintenance. It helps them cover costs to fix the fences because they bring in a ton of money by hosting multiple tournaments in the summer to cover those costs. If we had the fields, we could do it. And again, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Question, when you have a need or concern, you want to have a discussion, do you go to Park and Rec or do you go to Ray Pendergast? Where do you go when you want to discuss what's going on?
I go to Kate Pasquarello.
Okay, you go to Park and Rec.
Or Ray.
Okay.
I mean, but
Well, no,
usually I go to Kate first.
Okay.
Yeah, and then if Ray needs to get involved.
I know, but isn't Kate in charge of
Yeah,
Park and Rec?
Kate is in charge of the fields.
I'm just
and
trying to figure out who the
permits.
players are, that's all. If we
Yeah,
want to
so-
talk to them about what's going on, who should we contact?
Yeah, Kate Pasquarello would be the first one I go
Okay.
to. If I need
Thank-
something with the fields, I go to James, who's the guy who does the fields. And if Kate can't answer it, then it goes to Ray. So, I told you I wouldn't speak very long. Like I said, I want softball fields. That's about what I'm here for, so I will let the next group speak.
All right, well, thank you for taking the time
Thanks.
to come out. We appreciate it.
Can we just make a note, though, that at some point, if we're gonna start to entertain trying to incorporate, we should also make sure that the town is not wasting existing land that can be used. Because we only have so much land to work with in Halliwell, so it should be a two-pronged approach. It should be, how do you satisfy their needs with something new at the new development, which will take some time? And how do we ensure that at least we're not wasting valuable land that can be put to use?
It's beautiful, it was, apparently it isn't today.
Was. That's the key word, was.
That's the problem. I used to go down there with my kids, but that was 30 years ago.
We used to have how many soccer fields there? Used to be the soccer.
That used to be
Yeah.
soccer and
Yeah.
football down there.
Well, the adult league used to use that.
Yeah.
The women's league used to actually use the field here before they took it out and Kelly. But that's where the women's league used to play, and then when those ended, another reason why softball needs another, because we lose Tuesdays, and then they take Sundays. And so we have one field, one less day a week.
Yeah. So as I was saying, it's not, I'm being a little selfish tonight because I'm not only thinking of our group, but being on planning board and knowing that our comp plan is going to be getting revised in the upcoming months. I want to make sure we get all this information in. So the planning board will now have this on record. We can refer to it when we're rewriting some of the parks and recreation space parts. And then also people like the multi-generational group can hear it because there's going to be work down at Pacheco. So it's not just going to be a building, it's going to be site work too. So if there's funds that can be allocated to help maintain some of the fields or improve them or add another one, as I've said before, we're just getting everything out on the table. And then that way we can just see what cards we have to play with. And we're going from there.
I think if we're getting everything on the table, then I'm not sure if the planning board has this authority, but maybe the budget authority committee has this authority, is that in North Smithfield, the town needs to invest in recreation because you hear the issues, and I'm sure Xpress will have issues, and North Smithfield Little League has issues, is that we have a part-time recreation director in Ray, and he has responsibilities on the highway and public works end. So the town really needs to move forward with a full-time recreation director and more maintenance staff, because I think Ray has 2 dedicated recreation employees to maintain all of what they need to maintain. And now we as a body are talking about adding more. The Scouters, the multi-generational committee is talking about adding more, which is another facility that needs to be upkept. So it was great that they brought Kate on board, and she's been fabulous, but they need to do more in this town to support recreation, or else these leagues are going to continue to have these problems with either field maintenance or lack of maintenance or whatever it may be. So there's a bigger issue going on that needs to be addressed budget-wise and dedicated staffing.
All right.
All right, Justin Tessia, North Smithfield Express football. We practice at Paul Kelly Field, been there since '95, since the league started. I can speak a little bit about Parks and Rec and the upkeeping, as I worked for Parks and Rec when I was probably 19, 20. I'm 38 now, so let's go back a few years. With that, I worked on Parks and Rec, cut the grass, maintained the Chico, Paul Kelly, multiple other parks around there. When I was hired there, there was a full-time Parks and Rec director. There was a full-time highway director. At the time, Ray was the full-time Parks and Rec director. I think it was his first few years into the town. And there was another highway director as well. So it was separate. They had their own budget and stuff like that. I can tell you that the fields were, we had probably 3 or 4 full-time guys, and then 2 probably summer help guys. And those were a full-time job, literally. We went from Pacheco to maintaining the bathrooms, the fields, the trash, to Paul Kelly doing the same thing, blah, blah, blah. As of the upkeep with all these buildings, there is no upkeep. We had bees in the Paul Kelly girls' bathroom probably, halfway through our season. That didn't get touched until the beginning of this year. There was, bees. You opened it up and there was a swarm of a nest, you know what I mean? So, yeah, the upkeeping has gone to crap pretty much. What we're really here for is lights. Our season is August 1st to November 30th. Obviously, everybody knows daylight savings kicks in around September. Our practices go from 6 to 8 o'clock at night. I would challenge any one of you to go down there at nighttime and put those lights on and tell me if you think it's safe for those kids to play. Football, full contact, balls flying in the air. Kids have helmets on, so you can't really see completely around you. So it's a huge safety with lights at the Meadows, or Paul Kelly. That's the main thing. As of, and the other thing that the cheerleading side of our program, come those October, November months, they go indoors. So indoor space would be tremendous as well. Whether it's just a gymnasium or whatever, any sort of indoor space would be great. Those are really, I would say, our 2 main concerns right now with our league. We do play our home games at the high school, and I don't know if any of you guys know, that is a fight. It is a fight to get field space on that field for the past 2 years now, since the school decided to contract it out to Worldwide Sports. It is a fight. We play up to, $1,200 for that field for the day. So if we could incorporate a football field into this, that'd be great, But the main thing that, we're looking for is a little bit of light upkeep, open field space, there's many ways that you can incorporate, baseball fields, soccer fields, football fields all together. So that's pretty much our thing. As of our enrollment, to date, we have 183 kids in the program. Last North Smithfield and Blackstone, there has been a big uptick in the past 2 years in North Smithfield. There has been a lot more kids coming from North Smithfield, both on the football side and the cheerleading side, from North Smithfield to play football. At one point, I want to say, when it first started, it was a majority North Smithfield. Blackstone helped out a little bit. Past few years in the past, it's been a lot of Blackstone, and then North Smithfield's kind of trickled. Whether that was people didn't know about football in town, there was an advertisement, whatever the case may be, but there has been a very big uptick since we've been able to get into schools and stuff like that. So, we sit at the Meadows with, let's just say 200 kids during a regular season. You're talking 5 teams, flag, 8U, 10U, 12U, 14U, and then you have that many divisions for cheerleaders as well. So we are tight, you know what I mean? We're tight. If, you can imagine a football field, if you chunk that into 4, quarters, that's what we're dealing with space, And football-wise, that's not a lot of space, And then the cheerleaders are stuck in the infield of the baseball field, softball field. And again, we all know how that goes when it rains. It's just a giant puddle, and they really can't do much.
So,
You know.
just just for the record, since we're doing this
Mm-hmm.
kind of complete review, you don't have any preferential treatment for your home games at the town field?
I wish we did.
Has that ever been addressed?
We have tried to get in price and stuff like that. I think we got in price in, did we get in price in this year? Or are we still paying whatever the normal rate is?
Managing.
Yeah,
Person gave us a slight discount,
yeah.
this time.
So Wide World of Sports manages
Yeah.
the field. They manage the concessions, stuff like that. So you have to contact him, who, I hate to say it, is a soccer guy, huge soccer guy. If you drive by that field on any given day, there will be a soccer team on that field. If you ask, 90% of those soccer fields don't even exist in this town. They are all out of town, even out of state. The teams, yeah. So I don't know what, even if North Smithfield Soccer even has anything to do with anything that goes on there. I know it's a premier club team, you know, so there's a lot of those out there.
So no protocols were established when this deal for managing
No.
was established?
No,
to
we-
give preference to teams from our town?
Yeah.
Should always default.
Yeah, there was, from what I understand, there was never anything put in place. We really, last year, this year was pretty easy to get it. It was a little bit easier. Last year, it was their first year taking over. We had to downright threaten them to give us field space. You know,
But that seems to have changed.
it
So the
seems to
board-
have changed a little bit. It's still kind of a fight. It's still kind of, you know, it's at their discretion of, all right, you can have this Sunday, this Sunday, this Sunday, you know? And we're only looking for 4 or 5 Sundays a year. That's all we're looking for, you know, as of home space there. But it is a fight, tremendously, you know? And that's the other thing. So concessions as well. So we used to rely big on concessions. Now you go to that field, the high school field, all the concessions are run through that party now. I guess there was talk of maybe giving us a little bit of a kickback. We've yet to see that. So,
Is it before Wide World,
sorry.
the town entered an agreement with Wide World, you could get into the concession stand and run it yourself? And then
Yes.
when that agreement came into place, what, last year?
Everything went out the window.
Everything was,
Yep.
it was just, here's field usage on whatever dates they
Yeah.
tell you that is available.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Did the rental price change?
I think we paid, what, like $12.50, give or take?
Yeah, I think he shaved off about $250 a game.
All right, so it was probably about $12.50 last year, it's about $1,000 this year. So we pay about
But you don't
$4,000
make any
in field
money on
space.
concessions.
We won't make any money in concessions, we can take the gate, we do obviously charge the gate, that's a $5 charge across the board, the league sets that. So, so we make a little bit of money off the gate, pretty much to pay for the field. That's all it really goes to. A lot of our fundraising has been a calendar sale that we do every year, and we've been trying to do sponsorships this year. So that's a big thing that we've been trying to get into and bring in money. With, obviously, the rise of kids coming in the program and stuff like that, we had to pretty much outfit the whole program. New jerseys, new shoulder pads. We bought new helmets last year, new cheer uniforms this year. So, you know, we've spent probably this year alone, probably close to $20,000-$30,000, you know, just in equipment alone, you know. And yeah, to the bathrooms there, very little is upkept, you know. So, and you can look, the soffits are all cracked and falling down. It's just, they are diminishing, so to say, you know.
Just as an aside, the agreement with Wide World is temporary right now. It's not permanent. So if
Supposedly,
you
yeah.
folks, well, no, my wife's on the school committee.
Nice.
Believe me, they're trying it out.
Yeah,
So if you've got concerns, you should express them properly
yeah,
to the school committee and to the town council and let them know
yeah,
what your concerns are. Because as far as I understood, the town organizations were to be given preferential treatment by Wide World. So don't let it drop. It's not permanent.
Yeah.
It's temporary. Please let them know.
No,
Thank
I
you.
will. I do hope that with maybe the whole hiring of a full-time athletic director, maybe something gets put into place where we banish that deal with Wide World, and then the athletic director takes back over. Because when Matt Tech, the athletic director now, his secretary, Vivian, I believe, when she was in control, or they were both in control, there wasn't really a fight so much for the field. We were pretty much said, yep, you guys can get it, no problem. Soon as the partnership switched over, it turned into a problem, you know. So, and like I said, we had to really threaten the whoever, Wide World, pretty much, to give us that space, you know. So, but I have other ideas, if I can speak on that. So the high school parking lot, obviously, at the football field, very small, right? My first thought was move the basketball courts, maybe to Halliwell, something like that. It's a double win. Move the basketball courts, basketball gets more parking at Halliwell. You leave those basketball courts, that gives more parking at the high school as well, you know. And then, you know, just other ideas I just had in my hand today is, you know, walking tracks are great. Again, it's a problem in the town that people are afraid to even go walk on that turf field because they're afraid that they're going to get kicked off, or the cops are going to come and arrest them for even using that field. As much as it's been put out that it's okay to the public, but yet you try to go there, gates are either locked, you got to walk around the whole entire complex just to get into the place, you know, so little things like that. But I do know lights and open field space is probably on all of our agendas, you know, because there really is not enough, you know, so.
Where do the cheerleaders go when they go indoors?
We outsource sometimes to Olympia Sports, which is in Cumberland. Sometimes they go to the Y.
Worldwide Sports, which used to be our number one.
Sometimes
last year they
Worldwide.
started charging us a lot of money to go there.
Yeah.
And then we started going to Olympia Sports, trying them out. I've reached out to like the high school to try to find a place, like if they would let us use the gym. It's kind of wherever we can find a spot.
Okay.
Last year our main place was the Boys and Girls Club in Blackstone.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay.
We left out last year. The weather was really nice until we were done, so.
Yeah.
Outside for most of the time.
Yeah. So I think our focus initially is outdoor space, but we have recognized that we can think about indoor space because I think there is a need among multiple organizations to use some type of indoor space. It may not be something we get to immediately, but it's good to have those ideas and know that if something is built 5, 10, 15 years down the line, there are organizations that can use it together. I'm sure Northmen Hoops, I'm sure Little League could use it indoors.
Yes.
Xpress, just looking at the sports leagues in the city, in the town can use it, and then you expand to other uses would be good. So it's good to know that, even though it's not going to be, I think, something we get to initially, but in a master plan we can account for it. And yeah.
So that's all I have. I don't know if you guys got anything to piggyback, but that's our main concern. You know, I know the Meadows, the lights it's been a fight trying to redo them, updo them. So we have the lights there, and then we rent on top of that portable lights to come in, because like I said, you go down there and you can't see from here to that wall probably, you know. And that's even with the town last year, going through all those lights, making sure they all work and stuff like that. But my thought is they're so outdated that they're the old school halogens that take 5 to 10 minutes to even heat up and turn on. And that's that. So that's all I got. Yep.
Just to add to
Yep.
that, you know.
Go for it.
We're anticipating this year renting lights if the lights aren't fixed and incurring a cost of somewhere between $7,000 to $10,000 for our upgrading, like especially our safety equipment for, youth football, so, something to keep in mind.
All right,
Consider. Thank you.
great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I do have some recent text messages from the North Smithfield Soccer Association. One of the things that they would like to see, if we're getting out wish lists, is another location for a under 6 and under 8 group for the some smaller fields for those kids. I do not know. Andy does not play soccer. No. But it. So right now, I believe right now there are 1, 2, 3, 4. Are there 5 soccer fields up at the elementary school? At least 5? 4, okay. Okay.
So, for U6, 10.5 by 30 yards for U6.
Okay. So that's on there.
You said U6 and U8?
Yeah. And then I'll also pull up my email from the,
That one field, and then like there.
And that's, they play in the big field, right?
No, U6 will play right on the bottom of the concession stand, closer to the.
yeah, and the elementary school complex also has a concession stand too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Copy and paste of the one in Pacheco. And then an email from the Northmen Hoops. The best thing for the kids as far as basketball goes would be 3 to 4 courts. Northmen Hoops uses 3 courts on a Saturday and squeezes teams onto 1 court for half-court practice, which is difficult for 4th grade and up. If we could have a building, it could be used as a combination senior center for use while the kids are in school. So my understanding right now is that they have younger kid practices up at the elementary school gymnasium. Then for games, they utilize the middle school gymnasium, and then for the older leagues, they're at the high school. So that's 3 courts right there. So, I'm hearing indoor stuff with cheerleading and activities, and I think we even discussed this at our last meeting, that looking potentially at a larger indoor basketball space that could house 3 courts. And then that would alleviate, having to work with or compete with the school practices and games and such. And then also that would give the opportunity for, some of the older men's basketball league to be able to have and play down at that court too. Yes, Pam?
We even outfit that building with inside nets for batting practice for the softball and baseball leagues as well for winter training.
Yep. Yeah, I think with a large indoor space that's kind of multi-purpose, the sky's the limit. Because I know at one of our other meetings, we had the senior Citizens Advisory Committee member telling us about a 200-person dinner that they would have, or an event, so that they could have, this banquet to celebrate veterans and everything. So I'm just seeing, the more we talk to people and the more that we're hearing things, it's sounding like our town is really at a disadvantage with a large multi-function space that can be utilized by a plethora of different groups. You like
Well,
that? That's your $5 word for tonight.
Well, one note to all of you, of course, thank you for coming, because you're giving us important information. But the return favor you can do for us is that when we start to develop our plans and we need solid support from the people, it's your people that are the ones that are going to be most impacted immediately. So you need to help us when it comes time to find out, is there support for our project? We really need you to give back to us and say, yeah, here it is, here are our people. They're gonna come to the meetings, they're gonna say yes, they're gonna say, we understand cost, because we deal with it every day. But we know we have opportunity, we know we have the children, we know we have the volunteers on the adult side, and we're energetic, so give it back when you can.
All right, anything else for the crew that's here? Well, again, thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate you taking the time to come chat with us. And I'm sure if we have more questions, I'll be reaching out to all of you. And I'm sure either at the football fields or the baseball fields, I'll be seeing any number of you.
Have a good night. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay. So,
What's exciting, I mean, what's exciting about what we just heard is there's plenty for us to do without the structure and with the structure. So the opportunities we have so many ideas that can be, because of all that additional, you know, we have that land can be contoured and changed. We could have upper levels and lower levels, maybe based on the topography, where you could conceivably put smaller fields in the back corner where the classroom buildings are, and use that grade to your advantage somehow. So
I think maybe one of Joel's challenges might be to incorporate multi-use fields. You might be able to get away with a skin infield for softball and baseball, especially for smaller kids. But then can the outfield in the winter months be used more for football, and kind of incorporate like we would do for a community center building? It has multiple uses depending on the season and the organization that's using it. Is field space can try to be tailored to incorporate multiple uses, so you can maximize the space that's
Well, I
there.
agree, and the other challenge that we may embrace and we may not, depending on where the design goes, is do we want to make it the jewel, whereby you want to go there for your formal activities, and then use the ancillary facilities that we already have for your practice, because we don't have enough land, and we don't to do both. You don't have enough land to have multiple layouts where you
No,
can play
you don't.
practice here. But if we want to sell it and say this is going to be the Cadillac, the jewel, so we'll do the home games and the final games and the nice fields there, which means we can restrict the number to just the critical needs, and then that allows all of those entities to use existing fields for their everyday stuff or their practice stuff. And it'll be, and then one thing that came to mind, so I don't want to forget, is the idea that the concept of, in addition to the necessary bathroom facility, of course, and probably a structured concession, is the idea of incorporating like a cul-de-sac rotary with stations for power for food trucks, so that we can incorporate the attraction of the food truck along with other space where you can have the routines of the concerts and the things that would bring in other people. But that allows you to, again, I mean, if you can have a tournament and you already have a area that's prepped for the food truck to pull up, hook up his power, hook up his whatever, you can rent the space, could be, and then you're drawing people in addition to the activity, because you have the novelty and the creativity of offering something which we all know for that generation, and even for some of us, has become a very popular thing.
I know a lot of food trucks will come with their own generators, but it is
The easier you make it for them.
could have the opportunity, because a lot of times they just use an open parking lot or an open field that is not prepped in the way that you just presented. So that, that could be.
It's not a tremendous amount of money.
I know food truck vendors are always looking for more opportunities, particularly in this time of year when people are coming out. So, and not to speak for either of the leagues that were here, but I'm gonna guess that a majority of their need is practice time. Because if Xpress is already playing at the high school, but they need to practice 5 nights a week. North Smithfield Little League has Pacheco, they have lights over there. But while those teams have games against each other, there are other teams that need to practice on those nights. So while you have a game on one field, Field A at Pacheco, there's another team or two that needs to use the field but can't because there's a game. So that I think is where large portion of the need will come in, is that practice time for those extra teams that are not playing a game but need something to do and prep for games.
But also, we're kind of, the good thing is also a complicating thing in my mind, is that we're also gearing ourselves towards the simple reality that if you have the structure, you know, the entity, that the multifunctional, that is the anchor. That gives the address its signature. Otherwise, if we just turn it in, and forget about the phasing, I understand all that, I'm just conceptualizing. That gives it its identity. Not only is it the physical structure, which has the architecture, but it has the purpose and the intent. So that you don't feel marooned, or you don't feel on an island because of the lack of visibility to the main road. You're going down this road. Oh, the building is there, and there's probably other things going on in the building with adults and seniors and young, in addition to the children and or the general public. So we're kind of, the only way it's going to work is that if we can't afford the structure, we need to have a really good sense of what it will be and how big it will be. And if we can then build it as a phase 2 without disrupting what would be phase 1. And I think the closer you get to some kind of even conceptual design, it's gonna be a much more exciting and rewarding sale to say, let's do it all. Because how many bullets are gonna be in that gun, you know? And we know about the police station, you know, we're all gonna hear about the police station from now until the end of time. But police station is a necessity, and we're finding out that this, from we use that term, but the multi-generations are proving that this is not, an arbitrary, random thing, opportunistic. This is a necessity, both for all generations. It appears quite clearly now.
But I think you're onto something that conceptually, if we earmark space for a building, we need to know, maybe not to the most minute detail, but we need to have an idea of how it will be used in order to determine how much space is needed.
Exactly.
So, you know, the fine tuning can come in later, but at the end of this process, if we have a building that envisions two gym surfaces, 3 gym surfaces, multiple rooms, you know, you get an idea of square footage and you know where to put it, and then the fine tuning can come in later, but we have an idea of what's gonna be there, and then what's gonna support around it on the outside that will draw people in. And I agree, make it a hub of activity that people will go to. Because if there's a buzz there, in Cranston, we have a facility up on Hope Road that has multiple soccer fields, multiple baseball fields, tennis courts that now have pickleball. When everything is humming, when all leagues are in and people are using it, it's a wonderful place to be, and the energy up there is really good. We have a chance to create something like that, where people can go, and it's a community environment that draws people in to recreate passively, actively, indoors, outdoors. So we have to put everything on the table. Whether it gets funded in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, we have to at least throw it out there.
But I also think that if we can, as we can, we need to determine if we have the ability to incorporate a revenue stream whereby, in addition to satisfying, prioritizing community-based needs, if the functionality is such that we can anticipate the potential for a revenue stream by non-town people using the facility, which would help offset the maintenance, et cetera, giving priority, of course, always to the taxpayers and their children who are gonna use it. But honestly, I just hope that we can look at 5 years maximum.
There can even be revenue streams within the building that the leagues can pay at a discounted rate than what they're paying now. In my building in Cranston, local leagues still have to pay hourly rates, but they're very small, they're very minimal, $25, $35 an hour. Asking them to pay something small like that per hour for usage, it's not going to generate a large sum of money, but it will be a revenue generator
intent.
to,
It's the intent,
yes,
the
to,
spirit of
so they don't necessarily maybe get the space for absolutely nothing, but a severely discounted cost that they can still build into their registration fee. And then they're still getting the space because they will get priority, then it's kind of a win-win for both town and league.
I think you guys are talking like there's a building there, as far as that. What I'd like Joel to think about, and maybe you've done it, but I go back to Missy's college days when Tufts opened up the new field house. And I walked in it, and there was a walking track,
Yeah.
and there were tennis courts, and there was a basketball area, and there was an exercise area. It's a field house, indoors. What I'm thinking, Joel, an outdoor field house, so that everybody can participate in their own sport in that area, but it's not restricted so that you're eliminating football because you get fences for baseball. So if we can't get the Y, which I think is the ideal thing here, and what you guys are talking about, field, if it has to be all outside, I'd like to consider it as an outside field house, where outside that whole thing, you get a walking track for us old farts to walk around, okay? And the basketball, yeah, there's gonna have to be a firm area for basketball in it. But football, baseball, and others can use the general area because it's an outside field house. I think that would be something to consider if we can't get the big concept, which is really truly where we should go, which is the why. Because quite honestly, we can't even maintain the fields we've got now. And do you think the town's gonna be able to maintain that whole complex plus what we've got? No.
Yeah, but
Without a revenue stream.
But you have to, that reality has to be a function of the budgetary aspect of the project. Because if we use that approach, even though it may currently be true, then there's no need to build another building. Because the standard approach is, well, we don't do it well now, so we can't possibly do it well in the future. The people have to say no, that's unacceptable. Just like you urge them to voice their issues, they have to say no. This town should be able to obviously maintain the buildings that we're paying for. So,
And the thing that irritates the heck out of me is that football field. We as the taxpayers paid $1 million for
Yeah.
that field, which now Wide World of Sports is making money on. That irritates the heck out of me, I'll be quite honest. So,
it's a very curious arrangement.
It's very
yeah.
curious.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is very-
But that's not on our agenda for
Exactly.
tonight.
We're on the outside of the track now.
Way on the outside.
One thing that I've been hearing this evening too is, aside from the revenue stream, but the desire to host,
Yeah.
Yeah.
bring in other communities. And I think that would be a huge economic driver for the town, both as, education of what North Smithfield's about, bringing in revenue streams, bringing additional spenders to town businesses, other than just to this property. So if we're holding tournaments, as the Little League was mentioning, all those people are gonna be frequenting business up at the plaza, businesses on School Street, in areas around here. So I think I'm looking at that as a very large added benefit to having this complex be down at Halliwell. We're in a centrally located position. We have the light already. It's really, our siting of the site couldn't be in a better place. So I'm very thankful that they were able to come out and voice their concerns and their needs and their wants. I'm hoping that I can grab the soccer folks and the basketball folks a little bit more, just to get, they could have the opportunity to see what Little League and Xpress have talked about tonight, so that they can kind of elaborate a little bit more. The one thing that I did have on the agenda as well was Parks and Rec. I had extended a last-minute invite to Cheryl and Ann, the chair folks over at the Parks and Rec Committee. The one thing that I do want to also keep in mind is, in addition to all the field space that I went down there last week, and the community garden is huge.
Yeah,
It is huge.
yeah, we can't
That-
forget about that.
We want to make sure that, that is another community building aspect that we want to make sure is protected, because it's tripled or quadrupled in size from it was last year. So they've done a lot of good work down there. The only thing that we're going to need to be cognizant of, and it's one of the comments that we got from Pumpkin Fest a couple of years ago always sticks out in my mind, and I think we had a couple of them, is the big oak tree.
Yep.
That needs to stay. So,
Oh, it's beautiful.
yep. So Joel, if you go down to the site, there's a community garden, there's the playground that's existing down there. It's down closer towards the tree line near the wetlands, but there's this very big oak tree, and if you talk to anybody who attended the Halliwell school, they all have some sort of story, good or bad, about that tree.
The conceptual idea for some had been to try to use that as an amphitheater type open air concert venue where we could incorporate another activity, which would be fundraising, having outdoor concerts, possibly incorporating seasonal stuff like Christmas and Halloween. But that was and it's a gorgeous tree, and of course, conservation is a important part, so. But I don't want to go too far off, but for Joel, I was wondering, when you start to do your base level, we've got that upper plateau, right, which was where all the classrooms were, although it transitions, that's really kind of grade, and then the grade drops off. It's more that, it's not that it's the upper, it's just that is 100, if you will, and then we tend to go down. So you'd almost have to define the lower area as the flat, open space ball field type, and use the upper, where the classrooms are now, as the potential structure. So we can the garden and what have you.
That's not a totally natural terrace.
Okay.
I mean, the topography is natural, they form that.
And so the idea of cutting and covering or modifying the existing contours and elevations are certainly worth consideration.
Also more trees, I think, on the upper and lower.
Well, I think the only trees that we would have any soft spot for would be that one. Yeah, that is the most substantial.
The other ones are in rough shape. They're in rough shape. Okay. So our next item on our agenda was the joint meeting with the Multi-Generational Advisory Committee. I was in contact with Linda Tebow, who's the chairperson of that group, and they had their meeting last night, and their preference is just to have the Linda and their vice chairman, Josh, join us at one of our meetings. So one of the things that I did want to talk about that's not on the agenda, so I was going to officially make a motion to add schedule to our agenda, but we can do that after we go to the next item.
Can we define, I understand it, but how do we, in layman's terms, or what is our understanding of what multi-generational advisory committee is?
They're overseeing the awarded bond for $4 million.
That's what I
for
thought.
the
So
Scouts
that's
Out
their
Park.
sole jurisdiction.
That's their sole
Okay.
resolution, yeah, that's
So-
been put forth.
What's still in the works is how much of the senior needs are gonna be met with the upgrades
Mhm.
to Pacheco.
Yep.
Or Scouters Hall. Because that's fundamental to
Exactly.
our overall design
Yep.
We don't need to duplicate
No, certainly
their
not.
functionality.
And that was the purpose of having the joint meeting with them, is to, one, bring them up to speed of all the research that we've done to date, so that they're not redoing all that research. So we were kind of having what we were talking about last meeting was an informational meeting. So Chris could, give his presentation that he's given before with our survey and everything that we've gone through to date. So yeah, the intent was to just kind of have that meeting with them, so they could, ask us, have the ability to ask us questions, and make sure that we're just kind of keeping in communication with each other, because they had their organizational meeting, probably not about 4 or 5 weeks now. Last night was their second meeting, so I think they're figuring out where they need to go.
Are they in design mode yet, or no?
They haven't even put out an RFQ yet. So that's where they are currently.
And is the Scouters issue resolved, or was that never even addressed? Remember going back to
Oh, the deed.
the
and all that
original
stuff.
intent and the deed and all that?
Not defined clearly enough to be able to. I mean, everyone knows it has to be, scouts have to have a priority.
Yep.
Period. And there's no question about that. But is it written in, no, it's not written.
But so, I think one of the objectives would be fairly, as soon as possible, to determine whether or not the immediate needs of the most vocal group, which has been the seniors, is going to be satisfied by the monies currently allotted for that structure. Is
Yeah.
it reasonable to assume, or is it not? Too early to even say?
Personally, I would say no. It's not gonna be enough.
But it's going to,
It's gonna provide some space.
Yep.
But it's not gonna provide everything that we've discussed with them.
okay.
Are they talking about putting an addition onto the building?
They just had their second meeting.
Oh, you'd have to.
I have no idea.
What else could you do? I think you'd have to. I don't see how you can upgrade it
So,
and make it
eh,
functional.
Joel is going to run the Joe who?
It's Josh.
He's scoutmaster for.
Oh, okay.
But anyways, we'll go on to the next topic, which is our BH+A update. So if you have anything that you wanna,
Still,
taking it all in.
anxious to meet with that multi-generational, or at least hear what they have to say, because I think
Mhm.
that's a key element, and then.
Yep.
Potentially the YMCA.
Okay.
We talked about that. And I think we can go from there to our start.
Okay.
And I need to meet with our site team and walk them through the site now that we know a little bit more about what we're doing.
Okay, great.
So there is a pulse still with the Y?
Jeff's the last to talk to them, so I don't know.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
believe there is.
Okay.
I don't think they've thrown up their hands on it. I don't know. I have
But-
not talked to them.
What would we need the Y for if we don't have a building? Because they're not going to manage the land,
No, that's correct. I think the question is if, in fact, the multi-generational people are thinking that it might make sense to put the whole complex down there, then we would have a building, because they would need it for themselves. That's how I understand
I thought it was the other way around.
it. Okay.
That the reason that we would want to, I agree wholeheartedly, we should keep the Y, give them what they need to stay interested in us.
Right.
Because we can't rule out the tremendous power they can bring for fundraising. And functionality. And I don't think it would be difficult for the architects and the engineers to seamlessly kind of meet their requirements and meet our, because they're quite similar. But I think it's a gold mine. That could be the saving grace to get us past, when we know that we have, if we're able to harness the power of their fundraising, their name. So I think as long as we can keep them in the game, if you will, the better, until we determine. But I actually see their need increasing if the seniors' needs are met partially at Halliwell. Because now you open it up to, same idea, but not as, you don't have to be as defined on one layer. You can lean more in the other direction towards the younger generation because the senior part of their desires have been met elsewhere. So,
My only concern there is the scouts are gonna wanna stay at Scouters Hall, which is gonna limit what you can give the seniors, even with $4 million. That's my, plus, if everyone agrees that the food pantry should be part of that senior project,
Yeah.
that's gonna eat up a lot of space, square footage up at Scouters.
okay, well, but what, it's a win-win either way, because the reality of that, if it were to be, is that the seniors are not gonna sit back and say, oh yeah, we're good with a 5 or a 7-year plan, that's a great idea. No, they're gonna say, we had a need yesterday, we have a need tomorrow, and we're gonna have it in a week, in a year. 5 years isn't gonna work, we want it now, otherwise, talk to the next group, because by the time you give it to us, this group may not be here. But that is the key, that their power to go out and vote and to make noise, plus the power of the entire younger generation right here that just left us. So it's actually leaning us more, in my opinion, towards the idea of doing both and making it a one-shot. Because going through this phase 1, think about it, if we get through it, you need to put a lot of new bullets in the gun to then start the engine again and get to a phase 2. So I think we always should keep our sights set until somebody throws cold water on us and says no, to try to always think of it as one project, the structure and the outdoor. I know the politicians are gonna throw, well, let's go the path of least resistance so we can make the people partially happy.
No, this is our opportunity to get it, as I've said, do it right and get it all out on the table, because we're not talking with every different group and person from town for no reason, just for the heck of it. We're doing this to create a place that serves our community, because in Northern Rhode Island, we're one of the communities that doesn't have a building as a community center. Community center, multi-generational center, whatever we want to call it. We just don't have it.
Oh, and the one thing I think would be good, unless the committee thinks otherwise, I think it might be not fun. I say fun because I'm a builder like you guys, we think of things differently. But it might be creative for us, those of us who want to go, to meet some of your people on site and just walk around and let them conceptualize. They're the professionals. Let us walk around, listen and hear, and maybe offer. I think it would be very good for us to be part of their walkthrough. I don't think it has to be a public meeting, right? Technically it does.
Yeah.
Special meeting.
So we just call it, and if
We have a
5
special-
people want to show up because they want to be with us, nice.
Look how many people come.
I know, but I think it would also give your designers a better sense of just who we are. And more importantly, it'll also give us, we're very impressed with you, I think we were from the start, but it'll give us a very good opportunity to see the people behind you and who's doing the work.
I'm trying to get everybody together to do that. That's a good idea.
I think it might, even if 3 of us can come, 2 of us can come, I think to ask them to include us would be a nice thing.
Yep,
Flavor of the community, we've all been here a long time.
Yeah.
yep, okay. Great. I'm going to make one motion that we add schedule to our agenda item we'll make it item number 7, just to talk schedule, so then that way we can put some dates on the calendar. With summer coming up, I want to make sure that we have a good attendance. I was just going to make sure that he's available, or we could throw out some dates so that we can coordinate and at least put them down in the books, so then that way, but I know in my office, I'm trying to schedule deadlines, and there's vacations left and right coming up, so I just want to get at least the next few through July and August on the books. So I've made a motion, I just need a second.
Second.
Got multiple seconds, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So scheduling. Typically, this group meets on the first and third Thursdays of each month. I'm not anticipating that we are going to meet on the 6th of July, just because 4th of July
Yeah.
week, vacations. So then the following would be July 20th.
That's fine with me. What would be would we try to have that meeting with the multi-generational people?
So I would invite them to that meeting at that point, unless they wanted us, representatives from this committee to go to their meeting. I can certainly work that out with Linda, and I can work that out with you as well.
Because it is agreed that that's a priority?
Yes, yep.
I mean, the other way is on that meeting, we can do the sidewalk.
Mhm.
One or the other, yeah.
Yeah, because I was also going to say, if we want to have an earlier meeting to do a site walk, so then that way,
Yeah, make it easier for them.
make it easier for you folks, and then we can get, make sure that we're not hanging out there till the sun is setting. So is that a good thought that we have that July 20th for an earlier meeting?
I'm good.
Okay.
I would not be able to make that one, probably not August 3rd if we have a meeting as well, but we do have other people on the committee, so,
So Joel, what would be a good time on a Thursday for you and your team to come down?
5:30, I mean, I'm trying to, you guys need to work and get your.
Some of us do.
Some of us don't.
Yeah, so I was thinking, if you wanted to start at 6:30, have an hour over there,
All right, so why don't we say 5? I think that should be fine.
yeah.
Okay.
And that'll give me
I can make that.
enough time to set it up.
Okay. And then we could reconvene that same July 20th at 6. Would you think you'd want to come back here, and then we can have more discussion, and then probably at that meeting, we'd have the chair people from,
That's what I was thinking.
okay.
That'd be great.
So then, I would say we could have similar to what we did for that original charrette. We had an hour to walk the site, for the public to go down and explore the buildings. And then, we had about a half hour, 45-minute break for people to go get breakfast, go get coffee, and then we could reconvene back here at 6:45. Okay.
And you're just gonna make an announcement. We're not doing any great, mass mailing. It's just gonna be whoever pays attention and
It'd be our
wants to
typical
go.
agenda
Yeah.
that we have,
Yeah.
one agenda for the site walk, one agenda for
Yeah.
the meeting here. And then let's see, so that's the 20th. And then Joel, would August 3rd be a good, 2 weeks, give you enough time to kind of compile thoughts and then bring an update for us? Okay. And we'll do our usual meeting time then. And then I think at that point, we'll tentatively schedule August 17th. We'll see where Joel and his team are at that point. And if you guys need more time, we'll obviously, work with you guys to make sure that you have the time that you need to give us some, I know clients, they're a pain in the butt. I have one that's been asking for 100% construction documents within 2 weeks. And we just wrapped up design development last
Oh,
week.
jeez.
So it's a fairly large project. We have said no. So I understand timing and everything. And like I said, vacations, I want to make sure that we have our, as full of a board as we can have at those meetings as well. And then that brings us into September. So I think after those 3 meetings, we should have a good handle on well, where we are and continue to work forward.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned.